Take my advice or don't. But either way, I want you to build your faith muscle, and I want you to fight and win. It's time to stop letting fear win the day. It's time to stop letting fear win your life. You deserve a fighting chance to live the life you love. Queen, I'm talking to you. It's time for you to fight and win that royal life.
Hey queens, yeah, you know who you are. God, come on, go ahead and put that crown on your head. Now tilt a little to the left, now a little to the right. Perfect. Now let's get to work, because we know you got big goals and you got big dreams and not afraid to let them know. Why? Because you step into your purpose. You speak out on your faith, and you shift up in your journey, because you a boss. Welcome to the podcast, Drop the Inspired Act with your host, Veli of QueenBayGoals.com, reminding you that you are a queen before anything else. It's your life and your goals. Make it royal. All right, y'all. Go ahead and work that crown.
Hey Queen Bays, welcome to a new season of the Drop the Inspiring Act podcast. If you're new here, allow me to reintroduce myself. I'm your host, Veli, and I decided to drop my Inspiring Act and become a podcast host in March of 2020. Yes, during a pandemic. It had been a goal of mine since 2018, June 11th, 2018 to be exact. I created a podcast worksheet. I made a list of all the things that I was going to talk about in my first season. I scheduled it out and I had a plan. And then nothing. And if you've heard my story before, you know I was an IT project manager for almost 8 years. So when I planned stuff out, and still nothing. So it's like, I think I probably needed a project manager to tell me that this is action that I needed to take. But same thing in 2019, I said, okay, this is my year. I'm going to do this podcast. It's going to happen. And then the same thing, nothing. I became more focused on building my virtual assistant business so that I could continue to stay home with my son. So that became the priority and not the podcast. Fast forward March 2020, I said, okay, now it's time to start my podcast. Then the pandemic hit, like really hit. Clients couldn't afford to have virtual assistants. My daughter's school closed, so now she was doing her school days remotely. And like I mentioned before, I have a son, so that's a daughter and a son. 2 kids now at home, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to start this podcast, and I did. It was hard. Some days I wanted to quit because it's recording. That's kind of easy, but then it's the audio editing and the video editing, the homeschooling, the keeping the toddler away from the kindergartner so she could get some work done. Look, it was a lot, but I could no longer put doing the things that I wanted to the side in hopes that some day some miracle happened and I'd have a nanny and a tutor and a quiet office to get my work done, to get client work done, and to build a podcast that I've always dreamed of. But now we're in season 2 and the rest is history. And if you listened to last week's premiere episode, you know that this season's theme is all about fear and failure because we're not giving 2 F's. Today's topic is faith over fear. So let's talk about it. I'll start by saying that I'm not highly religious in the sense that I don't memorize the Bible. I don't shoot people with Bible quotes. I don't feel like everybody should believe in God or have the same faith that I do. I understand everyone has their own culture. Everyone has their own way of getting in tune with their faith and whatever that looks like for them. I'm okay with that because what it looks like for me is believing in God, praying every night before I go to bed, when it's not a pandemic, going to church at least once or twice a month. And recently I joined a Bible study group with one of our guests that's coming up this season, but she has a Bible study group for women entrepreneurs who are looking to understand faith as it relates to your business. So if you want to join that, I will leave a link in this description as well as the description for her episode that's coming up. But I think hers is later down in the year because her episode is about failure. So hers comes in the next half of the season. But anyways, I'll leave a link if you guys want to join that. But I said all that to say, I'm still on my faith journey. I don't know that that's a journey that ever ends. Everybody has their own timing of when they decide that they're going to go on that journey. So whatever that looks like for you, whatever that looks like for anybody listening. I'm open and I'm okay with whatever you choose to do with your life, because it's always your life, right? What I wanted to talk about with you today is how you can use faith to combat the fears that you have in your life. Because there are a lot of days when you are letting fear win. So hear me out. A lot of you out there aspire to be an author, aspire to be an entrepreneur, aspire to be able to walk away from your job and still maintain your lifestyle. But the reason why you still have aspiring in front of that thing you want to do is because fear is holding you back. Whether it's fear of failure or fear of success, which let me tell you, we don't talk about fear of success enough, and we're not going to do it in this episode either, but fear of success is a real thing. It is a real thing. We don't talk about that enough. But fear of what other people are going to think about you, fear of the unknown, because let me tell you, it's scary out here trying to live a life of your own design, and it's not easy, especially when you don't have or see anyone around you who's doing it. And too many times we allow those fears to keep us in the same place, to keep us comfortable, to keep us from moving forward. And I want you to move forward. I want you to get uncomfortable. I want you to step out of the place that you're in and create a space that you're wildly in love with every day. That's why I started this podcast. That's why it's called Drop This Power and Act. That's why I didn't start in 2018, right? There was so much stuff that I had to learn, so much that I had to go through, so much that I had to get uncomfortable with. I had to get comfortable hearing my own voice. I had to get comfortable believing that there was an audience out there for my podcast, to get comfortable getting past my own fears and getting through my own stuff. You know, I mentioned earlier the tech is easy for me, but I hate audio editing and I hate video editing. But you know what? I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in computer information systems. So the tech was the last thing that I was worried about stopping me, because I could teach myself that. The stuff that I had to, push myself and get through, those were the things like the negative self-talk. I had to learn how to believe in myself. I had to learn that if there was something that I wanted to do, I have to fight for it. And that's what I want you to do. That's what I want you to learn. So I'm going to go through today 4 ways that you can build your faith muscle to fight the fears in your life that are holding you back. So let's get straight to it. Number 1, believe that you were created for something greater or something more. I want you to take a look at your life and seriously ask yourself, is this all that I was meant for? And then I need you to tell yourself the truth. Because if you truly believe that you were just meant to go to a job, collect a paycheck, and live a life that is miserable, or be in a space where you feel like nothing that you do matters, I need you to check yourself and to check your truth. Because I'm here to tell you that you are created for something greater. You are meant to live a life that you truly love. Your current existence requires that you step into your journey and start walking towards that life that you are meant for. Quit lying and start telling yourself the truth. Number 2, believe in yourself. And I know some of you are like, well, isn't that what you just said? How is that any different from believing that you were meant for something more? Believing in yourself has more to do with your confidence and your self-esteem. Some of us are hiding our full selves and showing up of a shell of ourselves, or showing up as what we believe we are expected to show up as for a job, for a family member, or even some of our friends. We don't show up as our full selves because we don't want to be judged. We want to fit in. We want to be liked. But bump that. God didn't make you to fit in some bubble. He didn't make you to make everyone else feel comfortable. If he did, we would all have carbon copies of each other. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a place where I'm a carbon copy of anybody. I talked about it in a previous episode when you're just living in a movie like Surrogates. I don't want to be in that movie. So my advice for you is to show up as yourself and believe in yourself. You can start doing that today. Number 3, be a witness. Look at the stories like Sarah from the Bible, who didn't believe she could have a baby. You know when she conceived? At 90 years old. Who would have believed that? Right? Look at Mary Magdalene. Look at Jonah. He probably had the most fear. He was eaten by a whole whale. And if he wasn't scared shitless, I don't know what scared shitless is. And y'all know I don't curse, but you get eaten by a whole whale, you should be a little scared. And those are stories that are in the Bible. But also be a witness to women in your life today. The women you'll hear on the podcast coming up in the coming weeks. The women who shared their stories last season. A lot of these women have been where you are, have had the same fears that you have, and they were able to turn it around. So be a witness to those stories and know that if it can happen for them, it can happen for you. And finally, lastly, share your own story. And I'm not saying that you have to wait till you've #made it to share your story. Sometimes we feel like we're the only ones who's going through something or been through something, and our stories are somehow different, and that we can't possibly make anything of our lives and ourselves because our situation is unique. Guess what? It's not. Out there somewhere, someone in the world has been through what you're going through. They're going through the same thing, or they're about to go through the same thing, and you sharing your story could help them as much as it'll help you. Look at our guest last season, Sean Kay, if you remember that episode, in Dropping Trauma for Triumph. She had gone through infidelity in her marriage, and she stayed with her husband, and she shared that in a book that she's written. And she mentioned in the podcast, there are people who are on Instagram, like showing these flashy lives, like they're the best and their relationship is the bomb, but they're DMing her in her inbox saying, hey, I saw that you went through this situation. I'm going through that now. How can you help me? So like I said in that episode, everybody's Instagram highlight is not the real thing. So share your own story, because like how she shared hers and was able to help those people, you can share yours and help other people. As much as you believe that you're the only one going through that situation, trust me, there are people out there who probably are looking for somebody like you to share their story so that they can start DMing you for advice too. Don't discount your story. No matter where you are in that journey, it allows you to be able to look back and see how far you've come, how much further you can go. And if you just continue and have faith, it allows you to believe in yourself. So that's my spiel on faith over fear. The 4 things that I mentioned today. And I'll run through them real quick. 1, believe that you were meant for something more, something greater. 2, believe in yourself. Work on your confidence, work on your self-esteem. 3, be a witness to the stories from the Bible and in life today. And 4, share your own story. So I hope that has helped somebody. And if it did, please leave a review on my podcast, wherever you're listening to it. I'm trying to find out where my listeners are. And though I'm getting some information from the sites that I'm on, it's not enough. So I need you guys to write a review wherever you're listening to the podcast. And let me know if you guys are liking these episodes or not. There's a lot more coming this season. So let me tell you about what's next on the podcast. The next episodes, like I said in the premiere episode, the first half of the season is going to be all about fear. So this episode was faith over fear. The next episodes are going to be fear as it relates to mindsets, then habits, then purpose. And then you're going to hear the real stories of women who have had to face fears in their lives to get where they are today. So make sure that you're subscribed so you can be notified. New episodes are dropping every Wednesday. And don't forget to follow the new Instagram page for the podcast. And we are going to wrap this episode up with a bow and the quote of the podcast, which does need a twist because it's coming straight from the Bible. So it's Psalm 56, verse 3 and 4. When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust and I'm not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me? So I'll leave you with that. What can mere mortals do to you? Talk to you soon.
You have been listening to another episode of Drop the Aspiring Act. If you're looking for more information of this podcast and other episodes, please visit queenbaegoals.com. That's QueenBaeGoals.com. All right, y'all. I'll see you in the next podcast.